we'll have this discussion.
Discussion? What discussion?
This is a discussion combustion.
Coming to you from Denver, Colorado. This is Discussion Combustion Podcast with your hosts, Kevin Batstone and Arthur Raw.
Too simple. Either way, talk about yada yada, who cares? But yeah, so you're doing big things, man. Thank you. You help create festivals. You are a spoken word artist, so AKA rapper, and we could talk about that. I've been a rapper myself.
Nope. Let's not use the word rapper. Nope.
Okay. Why is that?
Because I stay in my lane. And especially just like, man, everybody creates their own art, so I'm never going to discuss anything on that. But I don't like the rap nowadays. I love the old school where somebody told the story. The spoken word thing actually is brand new to me. I didn't know I had the ability to do it until about like a year ago. I was actually just pretty stoned one night and was watching a video. I'm like, I want to try that. And
what is the spoken word? Like, I don't know what that is exactly.
So it's spoken word poetry where I guess it has a flow and a rhythm to it, and a specific cadence and word rhyme. But it's more of telling a story. So a lot of mine focuses on mental health and a lot of the things that I have been through, where I feel like mental health in this country is not popular to talk about. And of course, it's something that is, really tough for people to go on, but there's nothing appealing to it. So that's why, it doesn't get any push on on media coverage. The government has, that's a whole other fucking topic that we don't even need to get into. It's a whole different podcast. But I needed to find a way to be able to express it. So I kind of take people on this ride of kind of the things that I'm dealing with, the ups, the downs, and kind of make it in a relatable way. Because so many people are like, oh, I really feel for you and I understand. And it's like, no, you don't. Nobody understands what's going on in my head. Nobody understands what I'm feeling. Nobody understands what I go through besides me. And I couldn't figure out how to express it. So this is a way of doing it. I don't follow, some of it, there's, beats behind it just for the ambiance of it, but I don't follow a normal setting. I don't go by bars, that whole thing. It's a very different style.
Is it like poetic a little bit? Is there like a rhyme scheme to it, or is it just, kind of a themed stostorytelling process?
So it depends on each person in the spoken word in that community, but mine does have a rhyme aspect. Okay. That's what I feel like people can kind of, relate to. And that's what really makes something stick. And if you can rhyme something and make it, something that really sinks in, it's going to hit somebody even harder.
I love that, man. So I would consider myself a rapper. Okay. But I was trying that since I was like 11 is when I picked that up. And my roots were Tupac was one of the biggest inspirations to all of that. But one of the biggest things of that whole thing was freestyling and by myself in my car, like alone, and just like getting those emotions out. Mm-hmm. Because it's important, like we all need a way to, let all this stuff go, because all of us are holding it in, whether it's, spoken word, freestyle rap, working out at the gym, whatever you do, just do something,
Yeah. And I think it's something I've always been a creative person, but it was never something that was, pushed in me as a child. I grew up in, I love where I was born and raised in New York, little city town. And I say little city town because obviously I grew right outside Manhattan, but I grew up in an area called Maspeth where it kind of has that, what's the best way to put it, where I'm not shitting on where I'm from, that like small-minded, that small town mentality where it's like, you go to school, you get your education, you either become a union worker, a fireman, a cop, or you go into some type of finance. That was your 4 options. That's what you do. So I wanted to do things a lot differently. So, kind of the black sheep went against the norm, and that definitely took a toll on my mental health, being, having to keep that in and not really getting to express myself how I wanted to.
Yeah, I can see that taking a toll for sure. I'm a small town person myself. I grew up wanting to be a meteorologist. That was my childhood dream. That's all I wanted to do. Small town, New Hampshire. I'm from the New England area, so I can relate to that small town vibe. Came out to Denver back in 2007 and, just kind of open up the career doors a little bit and different options. It's amazing what's out there when you actually, take a look around. We get where I'm from, man, like everyone just stays in that hometown. They don't like to venture out and try different things. And I was the same way. I feel like it's important to try different things and spice things up in life.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays everything is, people try to live so black and white when the world we're living in operates in the gray. And people just don't want to think outside the box. They're just so afraid of something different. They're so afraid of being the norm. And it's actually got nothing to do with what they're trying to do. It's the judgment of what your surroundings, your peers in society is going to think of you. The pressure that we put on people to, be like these social media influencers. And, you got to be successful by the time you're 25. And the American dream is to own a house, have kids, but like you're fucking in debt $500,000 by the time you're 27 years old doing that. Like why?
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree. And it's so true. Like, being complacent, being comfortable, not taking risks, doing the easy thing. Like that's the easiest thing to do. The easiest thing to do is nothing. To do nothing different. That's the easiest thing to do. And it is a challenge. Like because when you pull yourself out of a normal regular routine and face your mentality with new tasks that you haven't done yet, you don't know how to do this, but like that's where living is like in that challenge. Like that's where it is. That's where like you find life.
But getting past that challenge, like you said, it's like it's doing so it's living differently, but so many people do that but don't change the perspective, where it's like I realized, as a kid, it was ingrained into me, never show emotion, never pretend like, never show weakness, never be hurt, keep your head on straight. You're a man. This is what you do. And to really do and to come where I've come, I had to rid that kind of concept. Because technically, when you're a child, by the time I think it's like 8 years old, you're pretty much ingrained with a lot of, abilities and beliefs and concepts. And then by the time you're 18, 95% of your day is ingrained in what you're doing because it's just on autopilot now. So really adjusting the way your mind works and thinking differently, that's the biggest struggle, because I still deal with it where it's like, I know this is a bad idea and I shouldn't be doing it, but my body does not allow me to not do it. It's like my nervous system freaks out because it's just so ingrained to what you're doing, and it's so hard to shift.
So what are some of the things that you're doing right now? You mentioned the charity. What are some of the other things that you're grinding on? What's keeping you busy, man?
Shit, man. I got a lot going on. So I actually learned this year, I always heard every entrepreneur is like, you got to be up at 5 a.m. every day. And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. So here's the thing. Nobody likes waking up at 5 a.m., man. It fucking sucks, bro. And I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat like everybody else does, but I need that time in my day to get shit done. So I'm juggling 2 careers at the moment. I operate and am the director of operations for the biggest festivals in the United States, running all VIP services. I consult in a lot of other festivals around the world. I operate the sky decks for all the EDCs, Coachellas. The Coachella after parties. I throw the Maxim events, Rolling Louds, Once Upon a Times in LA, Art of the Wilds. I have a hand in most of these really wild, crazy parties. So that alone in itself, coming out of the pandemic, has been very consuming and just so much going on at one time. And people are fucking crazy right now.
I know they got all this pent up energy and shit.
Oh, it's insane. Pent up energy and pent up money.
Okay, that's the big one.
That's a terrible, terrible combination. It's terrible. But then that's what I do to make money, because that's what everybody has to do. You got to do what you got to do until you can do what you want to do. Where my focus is, the passion is, and what I know I will be making a full-time career in the next year and a half to 2 years. I have a foundation called the Mind's Pursuit. It is a mental health foundation to raise awareness and change the stigma. And it kind of incorporates into several different aspects where I like to lay everything out. I'm very OCD. I've had my mental health be such a deterrent where I had to learn how to make it work for me. So my ADHD allows me to work on 7 different projects at one time, which is great, but also in the down moments, not so much. So in the one aspect, I launched today, which I'm super excited about, 2/2022. It's actually exactly a year ago to the day that I launched the nonprofit foundation. It is our first major event. It's called The Alchemy. It is taking place at Sky Bar in West Hollywood. We have taken the concepts that I have branded with my entire logos, everything. It's this kind of pop art vibe style. I grew up in the
It looks good. We were checking it out. It looks really good.
Yeah, I grew up in the generation of street art and Banksy, and most people have less than an 8-second attention span. So you need something that's really captivating to get them. So we took Sky Bar in LA and pop arted the entire thing to look like downtown LA, with the pop art city line, with a stage that looks like a street corner, with a spotlight, with the telephone holes behind it, with so much graffiti on the walls behind it. And it is a curated open mic with 3 other performers besides myself. And it's the concept of telling us a story. They're doing it through song. I'm doing it through poetry, with an opening of what was the dark place you were in? How did it affect you? And how were you able to channel that into this beautiful music to help other people? And then really get to shed in on that. And then I have the poem that I'm doing that I'm very excited about, that I've been working super hard on, to really showcase what's going on in the world and what we're going to be doing with this foundation. That's the first part of that aspect. Secondly, from that, I have a podcast as well. It's called Chaos Controlled. It's about the mental toll the nightlife takes, and honestly, the crazy shit that goes on behind the scenes. Like, most people see my stories on social media and they're like, oh, your job looks amazing. I'm like, you've seen 35 seconds.
Yeah.
You don't understand the 18 hours of, like, the festival, the party is literally falling down around you and you have zero idea because of what we do to really tell you what goes on there, because it's fucking fascinating. We can't videotape it. I've been approached a couple of times from reality shows. I'm like, there's absolutely no way we can do that. So we just kind of recant the stories. I have an EP and a book coming out. The book is called My Manic Maze. That is the poetry book about the mental toll that my life has taken on me, how my bipolar disorder has led to my ADHD, how that led to my anxiety, to my depression, to my drug addiction, to my suicide attempt, and then what I learned to pick myself back up. And it's a whole flow and come of tale story, but it's very honest and open and raw. And then on the next quarter of what I'm working on, it's actually a children's book called Little Mikey in the World, where we teach kids how to identify anxiety and depression at a young age. And unlike a regular cartoon, we'll see little Mikey grow up and what it's like to really deal as you're struggling through many different generations. Because what I've learned with what I have, like, it doesn't go away. It doesn't get easier. I have to get better. So that's where I want to put my whole focus. And then continue to throw all these massive events as well and make that a big part of, like, the festival concept as well, and kind of integrate those.
Man, I mean, you definitely brought a whole a U-Haul worth of stuff to unpack right there, and I love that. But one of my favorite things that you're talking about is, and which I think is one of the most important things, is normalizing the conversation of struggle. Kevin and I, and on Discussion Combustion, we've mentioned this a bunch of times, how, everyone on social media just puts the best out there. Like, they don't put out their bad days. And it's so important for us to talk about the bad days and to be vulnerable. Like I've said a bunch of times, and I've cried on this podcast a bunch of times, because, I'm raw and emotional as well. And, I got to let that go. Like, I'm not trying to hide that anymore. I was taught the same things when I was young, like, hide the emotion. Like, you're a man, you got this, whatever. And that's the thing, though, is, like, everybody's vulnerable and everybody feels pain and everybody struggles somewhere. And if all of us could band together and, like, start making that normal to talk about that stuff, then just imagine how many people would be helped that are afraid to start that struggle.
And, like, so here's the wild thing about all this. And, like, I've talked to a bunch of different PR companies and a bunch of different publishing companies right now about working with me on this concept. And the first question is what celebrity do you have attached? And I'm just like, that's really not the point of this. That's kind of why we're in the predicament that we're in the first place. That's not what this is about. I don't understand that whole aspect. So it's just like, what everybody's so focused on is it has to be in the limelight. So I hate kind of referring it to this way, but my goal is to make the conversation of mental health cool, to bring it mainstream, to make it more open, because once it's more acceptable, then it's cool. So, like, I have an event I'm looking to throw the next aspect after the Alchemy. It's actually going to be the end of this year. It's called Hanging with the Cool Kids. And it plays on the whole concept of high school. But instead of the jocks being the cool kids, now it's the poets, the stoics, the thinkers, the dreamers, the philosophers, the people who have this new ideology, because that's what's actually going to create the revolution. Change is messy, but you need people that can really think things through and play on that whole thing. Because if that's what's really going to work, and we're going to make this conversation open, people have to be willing to listen to the people that have really gone through it and understand. But it's pretty sad that I need to get a couple of celebrities to sign off on me. But that's kind of how this world works. You don't just get to become part of that circle. So it is what it is. And I'm going to do what I got to do.
Yeah, we got to check the boxes and cross the keys, so to speak, to reach the proper viewers and eyes and ears, of course. And I like what you said there too, because it's, I think it is going to almost take something along the lines of it becoming cool to talk about, right? We talk about social media and how the influencers don't necessarily show the bad times. And why is that exactly, right? Because I feel like that's going to affect more people's lives than the picture on a beach in, Fuji or wherever, right? We've seen all the good times. That's all well and good. But if we can relate to, and I think that's one thing that I like about podcasting too, is just being open and sharing real stories about things we've all been through and the struggles, whether it's addiction or, what have you, right? That realness out there is what we need to tap into, I think, now more than ever, because we've gotten so lost with this fake reality of social media and these fake expectations and hashtags and what have you. Let's bring it back to the real stuff. And I'm with you, man. Let's make it cool again. I'm with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and like you talk about all these people on social media, yo, man, I'm lucky. I don't know, if I want to use the term lucky enough, but I've been in this industry for quite a while with what I do. And it has let me come into contact with people and get to be part of certain circles that I look around the room sometimes. I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? And it's been some cool moments, but then you also really realize these people. So I've been in the rooms with some of these girls that have these 10, 20, 30 million, followers, and they're posting pictures on the beach in Fiji, but they're sleeping on somebody's couch and literally don't have money to eat or look like complete shit because they've just been on a bender for 3 days.
Yeah. Like what's going on there? Yeah, where's the disconnect?
Like you're just like, you live in a different reality than what you project. And it's like, yo, this is why so many people want to go live in this metaverse now. It's like, I don't want to do that.
No.
That's awful.
Nah.
Be a person. But
yeah, X-Men that shit.
Yeah, but like you got to kind of play both sides. And like, I hate it, but you don't change the system by fighting the system. That never works. You change the system by learning how the system works and then operating within the system and making the change when you see possible. And it takes a very long time to fucking do that. So it's like, you got to play, like, until I'm at the point where I can really call my own shots, I got to play the game, and there's people I have to appease and certain paths I have to take, whether I agree with it or not.
It's true.
Yep.
It's true. But the fact remains that, like, regardless of getting to success, like, we don't have to lose our morality to get there. And I'm going to coin it with this one thing is that you can say one sentence 1,000 different ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could say one thing very offensively, or you could say it compassionately, or like with a concern. So I feel like that's where the fine line is how you present yourself, how you choose to use your words, because you can totally say anything that's on your mind as long as you say it the right way,
Correct.
And that's why texting is so bad, because people read it however they want.
But also, so and here's a question I'll kind of pose to you, and like, and I'll give you my thought process on it for a second, though. It's like, we talk about being successful, but like, by whose definition? When did success become this version of you have to have 10 million followers and 3 homes and friends with a celebrity and going to courtside Laker games for you to be successful? Because I'm sure there's a bunch of people in middle America who have 3 kids, a small house, go to work on a 9 to 5, and are as happy as shit, because in their mind, that's what being successful is. So like, why do we focus so much on this concept of we have to be a public figure? We have to, like, who the fuck made that okay? That's not success.
No, you're right. That was a good point as far as, what does happiness mean to each individual? And it probably looks different for a lot of us. Like you just mentioned, the middle class, Midwestern family that's getting by, loving life. Maybe they can afford to go see a Chiefs game on the weekend or what have you. That's happiness to them. For other people, it's having the celebrities, it's having the followers. That's happiness to them. Right. I think, for me personally, I think success and happiness comes down to being in control of time and money is the way I look at it. Right. And that could look different for a lot of people. I'm not saying I want to be, a millionaire or anything along that lines. I want to work for myself. I don't want to be in control of my time and money. And I think that's feasible for all of us.
Oh, 100%. And like, I mean, Jim Carrey has one of the coolest quotes of all time is where he goes, "I wish everyone could be rich and famous and realize that that's not the answer." And like, one of the things that when I continuously tell my story to people and we kind of get down to the nitty gritty of it. And when I say this, I don't say this to boast in an aspect. I'm saying this. So here I am, 24 years old. I moved to LA, get into the nightlife scene. By 27 years old, I'm pretty much running the most exclusive party at the coolest festivals in the world. My fucking head went like this.
Yeah.
I have access to every major.
You weren't being humble. So you're admitting you weren't being humble.
Oh, I was a fucking lunatic. I had an ego motherfucker. I thought who the fuck I was. But on the other hand, it's like, all right, cool. I'm hanging out with these big celebrities. I'm at these crazy underground parties. I have access to every drug I fucking want. I'm on private jets. I walk into any club pretty much any club in sweatpants and fucking flip flops and walk in before celebrities and people do. I have a lot of beautiful women around me and I'm making a lot of money, but I was fucking miserable. And at the height of that is when I decided, I'm done. There's no turning back. I am so removed from reality and I'm never finding my way back. And that was the night I chose to take my own life. And luckily I'm very grateful that did not happen. But man, at that moment, I was really cool with it. Like, I'm not even going to sit here and say I regretted it, where like in that moment, I was so convinced. I was like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, it's good. I had the notes written. I still have them. I turned one of them into a poem. And I read it quite often, actually, to just really, never let myself get back there. But it's not everything.
Well, I mean, because that's one of the things, though. And thank you for, I know you mentioned that you share this on your podcast and you've been open with this, but I appreciate you being open with it here too.
Always.
But like, that's something that you carry with you, man. Like it's hard. It's hard to really move forward fully. I mean, because like the demons are always knocking at the door. It's just, you putting your attention somewhere else, sort of thing. Like I know I mentioned prior to recording, but like the whole opiate thing for me, man, like I was on it for 12 years. It took me 5 years to get off of it. That's 17 years of my life dedicated to this shit. And it's been about a year for me being off of it. And like, I think about that shit every day, every single day, man. And it's like, it's a constant fight. You got to fight every day.
I'd be lying to you if I said I don't have to leave places sometimes, especially like, I was partying a shitload and, I have it in a lot of the things that I speak about. Like I did a lot of cocaine back in the day, did a lot of really wild drugs, and I loved every second of it. Yeah. But now it's the whole mental concept of like, this isn't good for you. And, kind of going back to it. And also I feel like I need to take a different approach too, because and no offenses to the peoples of like the Tony Robbins and all them in the world. They're great. They have a purpose, but I'm one of the people who actually have a chemical imbalance in my brain where I have to take medication in order to level out. But that process, shame on you, fucking the medical system and Pfizer and everybody for how that operates and how fucked up it makes people. Please don't cancel us. But it's fucking awful how it makes you feel. And it's like, so some of that in your face shit of just like, you got to tough it out. Like, that doesn't work for a lot of people. There's a large majority of people where it's like, homie, keep yelling at me while I'm fucking depressed. I'm just going to fucking lay there and this isn't going to work. Like there has to be a different way it's approached. And one of the biggest things that I learned that I think a lot of people have a hard time with, and something that like I really want to speak on, like we can touch on my story a little bit more about like, what happened through that time of how, when I tried to kill myself till now. But it's just a lot. And it's like really heavy to deal with most of the time. And I actually forgot where I was fucking going with that, to be completely honest with you.
Hey, it's all good. This happens to me at least 3 times per episode.
When you get like, but oh no, sorry. No,
here it is.
I'm back to where I was, where it's like, there has to be a different approach because it's just people like that suffer differently. And I had to learn radical acceptance where it's like, this isn't going to change. So and this is even more honesty. And this is probably the first time I've talked about this outside of my therapy. This month, I actually came off one medication because it wasn't working for me and I had to jump on a new one. And this is probably the darkest I've been since my suicide attempt. It's been a struggle. Like even today, getting up was it's been so overwhelming where it's one of those things where it's like, I have to radically accept this is part of my life. But if I want to continue to do what I got to do, I got to learn how to live with this. And I still managed to put my entire event didn't exist until this month. So going through that dark depression spell, and this is probably the most proudest I've ever been with myself. And this is how I know I've learned a lot of growth, is that I still got shit done. And I still did not let it affect me. I just had to realize, okay, I need to lighten my load a little bit. I need to maybe go get a massage or two more. I need to let myself sleep in. If I feel like eating shit, don't fucking hold myself accountable to like have to be on the diet. It's okay. I have to let myself feel and process this. So for the first time ever, I really found a balance and I was really able to get shit done. And then I came out of the depression, the manic fucking hit and killed it. So now we're on that upswing. So it's like, I had to figure out how to make this shit work for me.
And that takes time too, man. I mean, I struggled with anger issues through most of my 20s. I've been through therapy through it, and I have those days. And I think one of the things you just hit on that I can relate to is the fact that being in the moment and being aware of your situation, right? Because you're like, man, I'm a little off today. What am I going to do? I'm probably going to do something that's going to better myself right now, whether that be a massage. Maybe I eat like shit, whatever the case may be. We're aware of what's happening, right? And we're going to be okay with what's going to happen next because you still got shit done. We're still moving the ball forward, and some people say, oh, that just comes with age. You learn that as you get older, which is true, right? You live and learn kind of thing, but it never gets easier. Yeah.
No, and I say this all the time, it never gets easier, but you learn how to get better.
Exactly. You learn how to cope. You learn different tricks. Yeah.
So like now, it's been about 4 years now that I've really been like in this deep self-development phase where it's like, okay, so if I hit a depression spell, it's not going to floor me for 4 days. Maybe it gets 1, but that's still much better than 4. So I'm looking at the silver lining here.
I mean,
and then,
the fact
I'm really caught up in my fucking shows though. So like, that's the positive.
Yeah. And I would say a positive is that you're being honest with yourself, man, because when you're honest with yourself and you're true to yourself to a degree where you say, I'm failing today, like that's such an important place to be. And you have to like know yourself to be able to do that. Like you have to spend time in your thoughts and away from phones and away from TV and spend time just thinking about your day. How did I do that? Did I like how I did that? Did I like how I replied to that person? Was I being reactive right there? Was I being proactive? Like this is my night before I fall asleep every single night, man. Like I'm constantly processing this shit. But you have to be honest with yourself, because if you're not honest with yourself and you're not true to yourself, that's the thing. If you're not true to yourself, then you only care about what other people think. And like when you're living your life based upon other people's opinions of you, and that's how you judge yourself as other people's opinions. And I'm going to quote Will Smith there. That's a horrible way to live. Like that's a horrible way to live. And so like, even though like you're still dealing with stuff and you're still struggling with it, like at least you're honest to yourself about it. So then you have at least the coherency to be like, okay, I'm aware of this. How am I going to take control of this situation opposed to this situation happening to me? Like I'm going to do something about it, Yeah.
Well, sidebar real quick. If you haven't listened to the Will Smith audiobook, fucking do it.
Okay.
So fucking phenomenal. He narrates the whole thing. It's amazing. Just back to that. But
he's one of my faves. I mean, come on.
He's like bucket list who I would love to work with someday. Like and I don't give a shit what it is. If it's a coloring book, I don't give a fuck.
Wow, you really hit that in the lines. Will, yeah, good job.
Like, but like, yo, man, you got to be authentic, and it's wild. Once I started being authentic, like I said, I put this all together in about a year. During the pandemic, I had to find something to focus on. Otherwise, I have no idea where my thoughts were going to take me. So like, man, I found something that is just really what I want to do. And it comes with like, in order for this to work, what I'm doing to work and my brand to work, I gotta be open about all of it. But since I've been open, I've realized there's so much more. And I really believe in manifestation. I believe in what you put out, you receive. I believe if you're good to other people, that comes around, no matter if they treat you like shit or not, as long as the intention is there, you're a good person, you're gonna win at the end. And you can't think about when other people, like shitty people come up like, yo, don't worry about it. Worry about you, stay in your fucking lane. But so many amazing things have happened to me. And like, it's just been, I'm insanely grateful. I'm seeing things happen that I've dreamed about constantly. And I'm one of those people that gets lost in the vision, but every little detail, like I can tell you my event that I'm going to have, and obviously I would love for you guys to, please come and attend. I can tell you every little detail.
Bro, you send us some tickets.
Oh,
are you saying you'll send tickets?
We're there.
Oh, I'll send you a link after we get off this, so you guys can do it, and I'll approve it. Oh, definitely. But like, I can tell you every little moment from when I walk in that building to when I leave, down to where the candles are, the type of food, the booze, where my parents are, where my friends are, who's spinning, what song's playing next, what I'm wearing, what I had for breakfast that morning.
Entrenched,
and you got to visualize it. And like, once you open that up and you heal that part of yourself, you allow those blessings to come in, because when you're not, you're blocking shit. You're not allowing the good things to come in. Like, every person has the ability to attract something good in their life. Every person is here for a fucking reason. That's another reason why everyone should really rethink when you get down. We all have a purpose. Whether you figure that out or not, that's not how much work you want to do. But everybody has the ability to be something great, to do something amazing. So why not you?
It's so true, man. It's so true. I mean, holy shit. I mean, man, that's a lot to unpack there, man. Like, you bring in the U-Haul and it's all real shit, like I'm saying, because
back it up.
People out there, like myself included, like it's so easy to just go the easy way and to not like be true to yourself. I mean, because most of us aren't happy with our day job. Most of us might be staying in a relationship because it's comfortable. It's what we know. Like we might not be doing things that we know will make us more happy because it's a challenge. But man, there's a lot of layers.
Yeah. And I think the worst one of it that like nobody's like, people aren't really touching on is like, obviously the pandemic is a big thing, the underlying pandemic of the mental health concept of it. But like, yo, man, sometimes shit just fucking happens and you can't explain it. And there was a bunch of events that I had lined up that I was supposed to do. Pandemic hit and I lost so much money that I had invested in. And it's like, but what am I going to, like, it's so out of my control. There is nothing I can, like, you can't harp on that shit. And it sucks because it feels like shit happens at the worst fucking possible time. Like, you get a ticket or your car gets towed, or like, I think when I was really in my biggest depression spell this week, a couple of weeks ago, I haven't left my house in like 6 days. And I'm very blessed to have really great friends who really understand me and have learned me. So like when they know I'm in it, like they all try, they all will invite me out. They'll all make sure someone will just show up at my house. Like, I am so blessed for that. So I was like, yo, you know what? Fuck it. I'll come hang out. On my way there, I fucking drove my car and I popped the 2 brand new tires I just had to have changed. And I go completely flat and I gotta get my fucking car towed. And then it cost me another $2,000 between the tow and the tires. Jesus. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, but like it was a fluke fucking thing. Like, what?
I have those days too. I feel like we all have those days.
Everybody does.
Everybody does. Everybody does. And it's all, yeah. And how are we going to respond to it? Because for me, I usually start throwing things. I've been known to, maybe drink a little bit too much in those scenarios, like, different coping mechanisms, right? Rather than just like you're saying, we just got to embrace it. Shit's going to happen, right? It's a part of life. It just always seems to happen at those inopportune times, right? The shit's already going off the rails, and look where we're at now.
I mean, if you want to look at it from like that existential kind of concept of like, you are what you attract, energy is what you bring in. When you're in those shit moments, in those shit times, you're only like, yo, man, I'm like Dr. Strange, like the evil Dr. Strange, bro. Like, I can tell you every possible thing that can go wrong that day. There's 679,854 different scenarios that could happen. And I know every single fucking one of them. So you're attracting that. It's like when you think your girlfriend's cheating on you and you keep on blaming her and she's not, but then eventually she was. It's like, bro, you set that up. Yeah. Like, it's kind of, but it's so hard to think that way when you're in it.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Because you get caught up in the emotions. There's a lot of outside factors that can play in. And one of the things I like to say on this cast a lot is the mind tends to do more to avoid pain than it will to gain pleasure. Right. So, and that's, we can unpack that a couple different ways. It's doing more to avoid pain, whether that's getting drunk or just being complacent, than we will to gain pleasure, to, make these hard decisions, to make changes in our life, to find the happiness, or to admit to a fault, things of that nature. Right. That's something I like to echo on because I'm guilty of it. And I feel like the mind naturally goes to a complacent state of, It's okay because of this. I had a bad day, so I'm going to fuck off. And that's all well and good too, but it's all checks and balances, I feel like.
Yeah, of course. But just, it's so tough. And I think that's the other thing. It's like the hardest part, and I can see it just because I think like I'm trying to look at life from like, 100,000 feet in the air. It's like, yo, man, so many people are struggling. So it's like, yo, misery loves company, right? Let's make that work in our favor this fucking time. Because everybody is miserable. And again, that's not a bad thing. The collective energy is just so awful. I'm like, yo, let's be real. It's a tough fucking time. Nobody knows what to believe. Nobody knows where to go, what to do, what's going to happen next. You can't plan more than fucking a month in advance. Like, this is a fucking still a really fucked up world. Like, we're nowhere near close to the end of it. And and I really think people are underestimating the repercussions this is going to have on the next generation of kids. Cause like, I have no idea I look at my friends who have children and like, man, I empathize. Like, how do you keep that child engaged? What's it like? They don't understand a world without masks. They don't know what it's like to be loved and affection and have these big gatherings and party. Like, they don't understand.
Hug your friends when you see them.
Yeah. Like, how different is it going to be for them? And I think this mental health thing is just going to continue to get worse. That's why like it needs to be talked about now, but I guess that's where I come in.
Yeah. And let me go ahead and challenge all the big fucking corporations that run the world, because you're paying all these Instagram people and the big corporations are the sponsors, right? So like, if they're not paying for real stuff, it's because they don't want to tarnish their whole persona or their look or their image. But here's the thing, like, everybody needs to be real, companies alike, because if we could just, expose ourselves more, then not only do we become braver and have more courage, but then we also help develop courage and the bravery to step out of these things. Like, okay, maybe what I'm dealing with today isn't that crazy because Mikey's over here talking about it. He's dealt with this, So it normalizes this.
I think there just needs to be a better representation of what goes on. And like, look, man, I don't judge nobody. I don't hate on nobody. You make your money, you're living your life. You do you want to be a person on social media, it is what it is. But like, yo, man, how are some of these people so famous where you're not influencing anything influential? Like, you're being
so true.
Like, and like, just to put it bottom line, and again, man, no offense to all of you guys. Like, I'm not here to, I stay in my lane. This is what it's about. It's like, yo, man, think about the effect you're having on people and kids. You guys are being some really shitty fucking people. And like, a lot of these big influencers have access to things that normal people don't. So like, you can't tell people to start acting like you because they're not going to get away with it. And then we're just starting this whole bigger mess. It's like, yo, just really think about what you're doing and saying sometimes, because it's just, I just look at sometimes and I'm like, and again, not to call anybody out, but like, yo, the Island Boys thing, it's like, oh, come on, man. Like, that's such a joke. Like, it really, granted, it's catchy as fuck, man. I sing it, I fucking randomly, I'm an island boy. Like, it's fucking hysterical.
It's catchy. It's catchy. Yeah, like, but here's the devil's advocate for that.
Yeah.
Is you have to celebrate other people's successes. And look, like coming from somebody who considers himself a lyricist, like I know that's subpar. It's subpar, but like, they're still doing something, right? So like, I'm just going to play devil's advocate on that one little piece, because that's something I had to challenge myself with too. Like, cause I was looking at this, like, come on, bro. Like, this is blowing up. Like, this is blowing up. But at the same time, like, they're doing it, right? So if I want to be successful, then I have to notice other success. So I'm just, yeah.
No, 100%. So I completely see what you're saying, though. So what I think, to clarify more than to kind of reiterate your point in a sense too, it's, yo, man, if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to put out, cool, own it. But the way that you guys act and how everything is always fighting with somebody or trying to be
not a good role model.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the image that you're giving off, again, obviously cool, yo, never gonna hit anybody's heart. Make your money, do your thing. But it's just like, yo, the image that you're giving after the fact. Yo, man, it's great that you took the risk and you came up. Good for you. But
Yeah.
Be grateful for
What
that
are you
and
doing
feel
with that?
bad. Yeah, like
Are you
you're
bringing
fighting.
value to the world?
Exactly.
You know,
That's what I'm talking about.
and that's where I think Kevin and I see a lot of success with this project, is because we've just always been ourselves, man. Like, and we talk real shit. Like this episode is some real shit. We're not hiding anything. We're not fabricating nothing. And it's being vulnerable. It's taking your pride and stepping on it with courage to show your true self. And that's what I want to challenge everybody to do that, because even though I've been practicing doing that and I've been really trying, I still have to remind myself every single day to like really do that, you know? So it's like even somebody who's practicing constantly needs a reminder every single day. So it's like, let's all be a little bit more vulnerable. Let's all try to trust each other a little bit more. But I don't know, man, this world, it's a crazy tightrope. Like this life is a crazy tightrope. And that's the thing though, is when you're on your deathbed. And I liked how earlier you said what's your definition of success? Because it's so true. Like, what is your definition of success, listeners? Like, have you thought about that today? Like, are you defining your definition? Are you living that? Like, if that's important stuff to think about.
It's just how, like, I guess at that point when you're on your deathbed too, it's like, how do you want to be remembered? Or do you even give a shit? Or do you want to like I said, I think everybody has a reason to be in this world and you have a purpose. So it's like, I believe when you're born, you come into this world and you have two things to do. One, you're supposed to be happy, and two, you're supposed to leave the world a better place than you found it. And that's just kind of the way I live by and what I try to emulate. And so are you really leaving the world a better place than you found it? Are you doing something to help humanity strive to get to the
Do you recycle?
Do you recycle?
that's one of the first questions I think about.
So yeah, it was actually funny. One of the first ever podcasts I went on when I was talking about what I was doing, and somebody made a comment to me like, "Yeah, man, do you really think you could change the world with what you're doing?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I do." And they're like, "You by yourself?" I'm like, "No, that's not how this works."
Yeah.
It's not a one person job to change the world. It's a group of people saying things, but like, I'm hoping I'm not going to be around forever. So I'm hoping that there's something that I'm going to say that's going to spark somebody else to really look inside themselves. And then maybe they're the next fucking big thing. But I had a hand in helping that evolution happen. That to me is my definition of success and what I'll do if I can leave the world a better place. But I can't save the world all by myself. That's an impossible task.
It's so true. It's so true, man. And we're all capable of so much. And I feel like we snuff our opportunities as people, as individuals. We snuff our own opportunities. Like look, the mind is yourself is your biggest challenge to overcome, is your own thought process on shit. Like you got to fucking fight yourself and fight the complacency and like work every day, be productive every day until you die. Yeah. Until you die, you do it every single day.
And like at this point, like, yo, look at the time we're living in. You have everything you need at your fingertips. And like, I think it was like Elon Musk that said like, yo, this is the best time to be alive. Like you can learn anything on YouTube. And like, yo, he's right. Like you can literally do anything you want, become an expert on anything you want. And everyone's like, well, I can't change. It's like, you can sit for free and take fucking YouTube lessons on how to be on how to be anything at this point. There's courses for anything that you can now take online anywhere. And a lot of them are free if you just do the proper research. You know, there's really, and again, man, everybody has their own ways, but it's like, I didn't see an excuse for myself to hate what I was doing and not try to find another way to be. Like I have so many possibilities, and I'm not even talking about connections or people that I've met, just on what I can physically learn through the books that I have, the amount of audiobooks I can listen to, the amount of things I can read up on, the amount of things that are at my disposal. Like you can do anything you want to do now. It's crazy.
It really is. The amount of information that is tangibly available in our pockets at all times. Now, granted, we started to get into, what's real, what isn't, but the fact remains, if you look hard enough for something that you want to learn about, it's out there. Yeah. It's free. You spend time, like you said, you go on YouTube, you can become an expert in auto mechanics. I mean, there's videos on how to tear down an entire V8 motor on there, right? Whatever it is, it's out there. It just takes doing it, right? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with your time? What do you want to learn? And I think that's what I have the most fun doing here, Mikey, is just talking to different people every week and learning different things. For me, it brings me so much joy, and I learn something every week. And for me, that's adding value to my life. So for me, when I look at my day, did I add value to my life today? If I learned something, that's a bonus. That's a great day.
So I think the coolest thing that I learned, because I love my podcast too, and shout out to my boys, Nick Dewars and Danny Gomez, who Danny is my co-host and Nick is my other producer on our podcast. And the cool thing is we've shot about 50 episodes, and everybody was nightlife related that myself and Danny have known for the last 10 to 15 years. And I learned something new about some of my closest friends that I never knew about, just because when you actually have conversation, it's amazing what people will open up to. And especially if you have the ability, like, yo, man, you guys do a great job. It's so easy and seamless to have a conversation with you guys. So kudos to you on what you're doing.
Thank you.
It just, you can really get some places. So it's just really cool because a lot of these people I spend time with, I spend in nightclubs, bars, parties. So it's like, you don't really have the chance to have that intimate conversation. And it's wild what you can really do and learn and what you can discover about people and yourself.
So true, man. So true. And it really just, it roots back to just sitting down around a table or sitting on a Zoom call and just talking. I feel like a lot of people lost touch with that a little bit, and some people are more comfortable texting or sending emails, and that's all well and good too. But I feel like, we're losing a little bit of touch with sitting down and having maybe different opinions or exchanging information that maybe isn't familiar to oneself, or having difficult conversations about addiction or emotional struggles or what have you. Just putting those things out there. I feel like the more we can do that and the more energy we can bring to that, will really help drive, people's awareness to it and really start to understand that, hey, it's not all about the smoke and the mirrors and the fake stuff. Let's put the real stuff on the table.
Yeah. And I think like once you find, and it's crazy because once you give people a comfortable space to open up, the things that will flow. And like I said before, I'm very grateful to have a group of friends that are just fucking incredible human beings. And the cool thing is that like, we all have this thing like, yo, if one of us is going to win, we're all going to win. So like right now I'm fucking really hitting some things hard, but like one of my best friends is performing at this event with me. My other boys are curating the clothing line and the merch to go with it. One of my other boys is heading up the weed project, and it's all intertwined. And like, yo, we get to put this entrepreneur team together that I get to sit and be in the front right now of, because I have the come up. One of them will probably surpass me and do their thing. And then we trade off and everybody knows their lanes. Yo, it's fucking awesome. So actually that happened more during the pandemic. And there was actually one wild moment at a bachelor party with a bunch of mushrooms and all of us just kind of chilling, where so like a floodgate opened where somebody kind of really expressed what they were feeling. And it just kind of like, it was a weekend that we all didn't realize we needed, and just, we got everybody closer. And then during the pandemic, we actually sat and we had like a Zoom call every week just to check in on each other. Cause everybody knows like everyone's having a hard time. Everybody knows that I have a really hard time. And it was really cool and that really developed our relationship. And that's why we're all really able to push each other, and this works. And I think if more people have that ability, we actually got a show on the Fireside app. We've been on hiatus for a little bit because of our schedules, but it's called Conversation with the Boys, and it's a men's mental health forum. It's Mark Cuban and Fallon Fatelli. Shout out to them. It's really great, the app that they're doing. It's like a live podcast where people can come on and ask questions. And we would get like a nice little audience of people being like, this is really cool how you guys talk. And like people would make their kids listen to it or their sons. And it was really cool to just make a difference for people and have people really just like, wow, what you guys have is cool. More people need this. And we're like, we were just being fucking us, and this is cool. All right.
I know. How does that feel, man? Because like we've experienced something similar where we're just being real on here and just, telling the truth and, having our emotions on our sleeves. And then we'll get like some replies being like somebody like, I really need to hear that today. Or like, that really, helped me center my day's focus. And it's like, man, like it means so much. Like that's one of the things that definitely keeps me coming back is the fact that I know that like keeping it raw and telling the truth and talking about my fails and how like we're turning that into something better than a fail. Yeah. Like that's what keeps me coming back, man, is just that raw, true, because that's life. Like life is not pretty and it's not meant to be pretty. Sure, there's pretty moments, but there's a lot of dirt and grime. You gotta, get cut up. You gotta take some bruises. Like this is not an easy path. And if it, come on, we all got to get a little tussle and a little beat up on the journey, man. And that's how it goes, though.
But I mean, I'm really grateful, and I think the last 6 months, because my life as an event producer kind of went off for about a year and a half, and then when it came back with fucking a vengeance. And I did 17 festivals from August till December till New Year's. Wow. Literally, I got back. I went to the doctor like 3 times. I'm like, you sure you don't have COVID? They're like, what you just put your body through is not sustainable. I was in 12 different states, 2 countries. I think I flew to the East Coast 6 times from New York, from like LA to Miami, back, New York, back, Atlanta, back, just in the month of September.
Wow.
So I was just fucking depleted and exhausted, and it just, it wasn't capable of what I was doing.
So what did you do then?
So
how did you rebound?
So the only thing that really, I'm still going through it right now, but coming back to, so I need to take a drink. What kept me going though, was really cool, is throughout that 6 months, there was so many people who would pull me aside, or like people would even notice me when I'd be out, like, yo, you're Mikey Tableman, right? I see you all over like my friends' Instagrams, or like, yo, that's your podcast, right? I'm like, yeah, like, yo, I listen to that before I go to, while I'm getting ready for work every day. It makes me feel fucking not as terrible about going into my shift. And I was like, yo, man, this is really cool. But there was one caveat of it where a lot of people would pull me, like wouldn't tell me, like in a group, would pull me to the side and be like, yo, thank you for that. Where it's like, yo, I appreciate that. And I think that's super dope that I had an impact on you. But it's like, part of it's like, it feels like some of them were kind of afraid to say it out loud, because I don't think they wanted people to know that they were struggling. And I think that's more of what we need to enable in friend groups, is people to be able to feel like they can have that conversation. But I am so grateful that something I said or did, or one of my shows or one of my posts, really made a difference. And I get those DMs all the time from people like, yo, I really need to hear this. Or like, yo, damn, that really made me think. Or like, yo, thank you. That couldn't have come at a better time. And it's like, all right, cool. I'm doing something right.
Yeah. Bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice reflection for sure. I mean, I think going back to just being ourselves, I think that's the underlying root of everything. But, when people come up and say, hey, that really touched me, or I really appreciate you doing this, I think it just kind of reiterates that, hey, man, it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to put this stuff out here, because it's obviously working, in a sense of, people are taking to it, people are having responses to it. It might impact their day positively or negatively, whatever the case may be. The fact remains is that we're being honest, being real, we're putting it out there. And I think that's all we can ask of each other.
Yeah. That's the only way you should operate. Like, don't worry about other people, worry about yourself, and do the best you can. Like, what else?
I mean, look, and I've said this a bunch of times, but when I spend a day browsing Reddit or looking at stupid Instagram, I'm going to call it stupid. I don't care. But I don't feel that good at the end of that day. Like I just don't feel as good. But when I have that day, when I wake up, I walk to my favorite coffee shop, that's a mile there and back, maybe a little bit more. Like I get that little bit of activity. I'm not looking at the Black Mirror all day, like, staring, like swiping, judging myself. Like, I make my bed, or I vacuum my room, or I do my laundry. Like, if you just do, it's the simple little things that really create this bigger picture of productivity and happiness and fulfillment. That's what I'm looking for, is fulfillment. That's the word. Because when I'm doing my day properly, and I'm doing what feels right, and having meaningful conversations, calling my parents, calling my friends, I'm not trying to like text you all day. Like, I'm trying to actually talk to you. Like, those are the days when I feel the best, is when I am busy all day, but I'm not busy like I'm working. I'm busy like I'm being productive, building myself. Maybe read a book for 15, 20 minutes instead of looking at social media, or just do 20 push-ups. Like, that takes 30 seconds, but like how it makes me feel is astronomically better than looking at a phone. And so it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, how do you want to define your life? Like, how you trying to define your time and what is valuable to you? Because when you really narrow down what's valuable, and then you do anything other than that, you feel like you're cheating yourself. But you have to have that conversation in the first place with yourself, is like, is this really going to better me for tomorrow? Like, and that's hard. It's hard to have that conversation and to really be honest with yourself, especially when we're surrounded with all this fake bullshit, you know? So that's my challenge this week. My challenge last week was, if you feel like texting somebody, call them. The challenge this week is to really be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror this week and really be honest with yourself about today, or whenever you're listening to this. Like, did you do everything that you really wanted to today? Like, did you accomplish feeling fulfilled, you know?
And here's the thing though, if you didn't, that's okay too.
True.
Not every day is going to be a perfect day. Not every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows. And honestly, if you want to enjoy the sunshine, you got to experience the rain. That's the balance of life. You don't get good without the bad. Like, it's how it goes.
I completely agree with that. And I feel like that's, you know, that encapsulates the thought, because like you have to struggle. Like, that's okay. Like, not knowing how to do something, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have those thoughts of can I even, you know?
Honestly, without this stroke, like, look, I truly believe everything happens for a reason. I truly believe what I went through was for a purpose, or at least I'm going to make one, because there's no reason why I should have fucking went through that besides myself. But it's like, man, I'm going to just fucking live that out every fucking day and be real on it. Like, because that's the only way you're going to fucking change it. That's the only way you're going to make a difference on it. But it's just, I fucking forgot where I was going again. This is a good conversation.
This is a fantastic conversation.
Great, man. No, it truly is. Rolling with the punches, taking the rainy days with the sun. I mean, I like it. It's not every day is going to be perfect, and that's something that I had to learn the hard way. I thought going through all this therapy that I was just going to come out and see light all the time and everything was just going to be rainbow and butterflies, right? Well, that's not the case. I'm still going to be challenged with road rage. I'm still going to have some asshole telling me to fuck myself, right? This is just shit that I'm going to have to deal with day to day. And, I think repetition is the mother of skill, as Coach Corey Wayne says, one of my favorites. And just getting out there and being proactive every day, I feel like is all I can do to move the ball forward. And I still fucking lose my shit, Mikey. I do. I come in here and Art's got to set me straight many times because I get fired up.
But I think it's just like looking from, a different angle and just, be grateful for you got to be grateful for everything, even in those bad moments. Cause it's like, honestly, like kind of taking it back to the struggle, what we were talking about before, man, I am so grateful for my struggle. And honestly, like, I don't regret any of it, because I wouldn't be in this moment I'm in right now if I didn't have to overcome all of that fucking shit.
Man, I'll empathize with that, brother, because the drugs, bro, that fucking euphoria I used to feel, that became my priority. Like, I ruined my credit. I got cars repoed. I fucked everything up to feel that high. And like, it's wild. And I would take every single pill still to this day that I took back then, because who I am now with that as part of this development and personal growth, like, it's true. Like, the lowest of lows, if you're at your lowest of low and you can get your shit together, pull it up by the bootstraps, and sure, you have your bad days where you disappoint yourself. That's going to happen. That's okay. I disappoint myself constantly still, but like, you still get it together. Like, you fight through that. Like, that person that you then become, like, it's so important. And then whenever you're having a low moment, you have that free success energy, that free aptitude that I did this at one point, and then you can lean on that. It's this strength that is with you forever, but you even have to remind yourself that it exists sometimes. It's a weird parallel, but it totally exists, man.
Yeah. Fun times.
It is
life. It's a beautiful thing, man. And this has been a beautiful conversation, Mikey. I've really enjoyed a lot of your input and a lot of things that are going on, man. This has been a pretty natural, free flowing combo.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys too. You guys have a really cool thing. And, I love, to be completely honest with you, I actually texted Shawn yesterday, like, hey, I haven't talked to your boys. And then I was like, oh shit, that's tomorrow. Well, that actually kind of works out perfectly, because I'm like, I got all those things going on that I had to, and it's been a wild day. So it's nice to just kind of get to sit, release, and just chill out for a little bit and have some dope conversation with some great people.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been good. And I love that That poster over your right shoulder, build an empire. I like it. It's got the Monopoly Man on it. It's cool.
Yep.
I like the message. Direct, decisive, to the point. Looks great.
That's what I'm trying to do, man. I think the coolest thing ever is like I get to build it with my friends, which is the fucking best part, man.
Terrific.
So
That is terrific.
not a better feeling than that.
Well, shit, man. I got to give you mad credit. I know you know this already, man, but fucking like keep up the good fight and way to be honest. Like I'm going to congratulate you on that because we need to normalize this shit. I appreciate you putting it out there and really, you know, keeping it real, man, because that's what we all need to do. Like fuck all this fake shit. Everybody out there is struggling in some way or another. And it's so important to focus on that. So then you can work on improvements. It doesn't help if you're just pushing it to the sideline. Like I could deal with that later. Nah, you can't. You got to deal with it right now. And you are a motivation. You're a motivational person, man. You talking about this shit and being real about it. It does help. And so I want to tell you straight up that it helps, man. And it helps me and it helps everybody out there. And listeners, this week, I truly want you to challenge yourself on just being honest with yourself about what you feel like you want to do with your life and do a little step, just a little step to get closer. And definitely check out what Mikey's doing with his podcast, with all the festival stuff, man, the charities. I mean, what a awesome person you are, man.
I would, we'll definitely get all your information so I can send you guys the links. Would love to have you guys there. Anybody out there, there's the ability to come through. We have an open guest list for a little while for outside people at this point that as we're building the program and the brand, would love to get anybody out there that can, feel like it would help them and just like to experience something cool, a little bit different and something outside the box. And like, the performers got some great messages. I'm hyped to fucking give my spoken word at the end of it. I've been working really hard on a lot of these and just been in the studio like crazy. So, it's going to be a good night. And I promise, like, the point is we're creating a place that everybody can come and just come as you are, come authentic, come real, wear what you want, be you, no judgment. And we're just going to chill, vibe.
Love
90s
it.
R&B all night.
Sounds like a great night. Sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun. And we'll be sure to include anything you want, Mikey, in the show notes down below. We'll talk about that a little bit off air. Anything you want us to include, unless you want to get in some last minute plugs here before we jump off.
Just check out the podcast Chaos Controlled on Apple and iTunes. My Instagram is Mikey Tableman. Same thing with the TikTok, Twitter, everything. You'll find a lot of different things on there, from my different poetry stints to a lot of motivational quotes, some of my speeches in different places that I've spoken at and gave motivational speeches for. And there's a lot to come. So check it out. And I promise you, like, if you're feeling alone, or you need something to reach out, and there's definitely something I can help you with to talk about. Nobody should ever feel alone. And we got you. Check it out.
I love it, man.
Mindspursuit.com.
Everybody check that out. Be real to yourself. We appreciate your time, Mikey. We appreciate your time, of course. And let's just make this week the best week that we can, even if it's just a little bit better than last week. Let's go, people.
Let's keep it moving, man. Let's keep it going. Mikey Tableman, so great to spend some time with you tonight. Thanks for chatting with us.
I appreciate
Love your energy, man. You're in our wheelhouse now. We'll be talking again soon for sure. And listeners, you already know, be good to yourselves.
You deserve it.